Hey everyone, welcome back to the Thrive Tribe. Happy Saturday. I'm not using my cool mic today because it's having some technical difficulties, but hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm very excited about our guest today. So I have probably not seen this person in about 15 years. And I mean, haven't seen each other, talked to each other, seen each other on Facebook. But I just want to tell you that this person, actually he's on my left, I guess you're right, however it looks on your screen, was my student. And when he was my student a long time ago, and I don't know if you'll remember this, Neil, but I remember this conversation very well. I said, you are going to be the president of the United States. And he said, I don't know about that. And I said, no, I really think you're going to be the president. Will you give me a job when you're the president? And he said, yes. And I said, I'll give you a job. And I said, well, how will you find me? Because this is before Facebook. I said, how will you find me when you're the president? He's like, because I'll be the president. And I said, oh, okay. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the fabulous Neil Gibson to the show. Welcome, Neil.
Well, I'm really happy to be here. I'm very excited.
It's so cool. Do you have a memory from school from when you were my student that stands out?
There's several. Honestly, like the air rock competitions, there was a lot of energy and resources put in that, and that was a heck of a lot of fun. Another thing I remember is that because you were in charge and advising the student council in middle school, and I would run every year, and I would lose every year, and you would create specific like random positions for me, like commissioner of something, like a non-elected position, just so I could keep participating. And it was really kind, and I will never forget that. Otherwise, because I certainly wasn't collecting the votes from popularity. I was too much of a nerd. But
well, see, I knew that you were going to use those skills in your professional life someday, which you have. We'll talk about that in a minute. I just remember, I forgot until you just said air rock about when Neil was in, I think it was when you were in high school. I don't think it was 8th grade, but we did an air rock, which was a big, huge lifting competition at our school. And Neil did Love Shack, and it was quite phenomenal.
I was
6th grade?
I was 6th grade for that one.
Okay, I'm just going to throw it out to the Thrive Tribe. We have over 2,000 members. If anybody has the clip of Love Shack, to please post in the comments below. Shiloh Mayer, I know you must have it out there. So let's get that and put it in there so we can see it. So Neil, tell us about your personal life. What are you doing now that you're not in 6th grade anymore?
So I am married to a wonderful lady named Momo, and we have 3 boys. So it's perpetual insanity at our house, nonstop craziness of smells and sounds and sights, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. And so my family's all in Tokyo right now, and that's where we're living. I guess we can get into that a little bit on the career side. And so what are we? They're 10, 6, and 3, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. And that's important things that's happening in my life right now.
That is fascinating. And you've lived in Tokyo for the past several years, haven't you?
4 years. It's been 4 years.
4 years. So I think that leads us into getting into, tell us about the interesting thing that you do for a living, Neil.
So I'm a U.S. diplomat. And so I joined the U.S. Department of State in 2009. And basically I represent the United States overseas. So I worked at our embassy in Manila. I worked in Taipei, been in Tokyo. And right now, actually, we're talking. I'm calling from Washington, D.C. I'm here for a few meetings, and then I'm off to work at our U.S. Embassy in Baghdad for 1 year. So that's kind of my family. Baghdad is there's so few safety concerns for bringing your family along. So my family is actually going to stay where the previous assignment was. So they don't need to move house and change schools. And I'll work Baghdad for 1 year, and then after that, we'll move on to somewhere else.
Wow. How did you even think to get in to the State Department? Like, how did that come about?
It happened actually in college, and it was a professor, a mentor, and kind of basically even opened my eyes because I didn't even know this existed. I was like, you could do this for a job, and that's where I started learning more about it, and and then went through the process to the very long process to actually become a diplomat.
And you have to speak several languages, isn't that correct as well?
Well, you have to, I mean, coming in, you need to speak at least one foreign language from the, I think, for them to hire you. And then you learn along the way. They really focus on language training. So I came into the it's called the Foreign Service, is what the career track is called. So I came in speaking Chinese, and then before I went to Tokyo, they gave me Japanese. And so those are the, and then I've been these past few weeks studying a little bit of Arabic so I can get around Baghdad, at least be polite, but it's nothing fancy.
Wow. Now, I don't want you to tell us any top secret stuff or anything, but what's kind of the most interesting, what's just an interesting story that you have in your job? It's kind of a highlight or.
Well, I mean, some of the most interesting highlights were, well, actually, let me step back a bit. Like, what do we actually do? Like, what is that?
Yeah,
so that might be easier, and then I can share a story and make sense. So I like to break it down in percentages of what our job is like. And so I'd say about 30% of our job, I'm an investigative journalist. And my job is to figure out, talk with people and find out what's happening and why it's happening. And then I be able to explain that to folks in Washington. About 30% of my time, I'm an attorney where I'm arguing on behalf of the American people in the United States saying, hey, this is why we should do this. This is why we'd like you to participate in this and making the argument. About 30% of the time, I'm a hotel concierge. And that's where we have folks like high-level visitors coming to wherever I'm located. And my job is to make sure everything goes smoothly. I mean, if it means I'm holding their bag, I'm holding their bag, or it's setting up meetings or even interpretation. And then, so we're at 90% now. And that's really the 10%, a little bit, is what I call show business. And that is where I put on the flag pin with the United States flag, and I go to programs or give speeches or go to events and just say, hey, you know, this is what America's about. And kind of I don't have a good face. I have a face for radio, but put, you know, the face. But
you have a good face, Neil.
This is what we're about. And so that's kind of how I break up the job. And I think most recently, some of the more exciting experiences actually were both with President Trump and President Obama both visited Tokyo when I was there. And it was, for President Trump, it was organizing the meeting with the Emperor of Japan and coordinating that. And for President Obama, it was his visit to Hiroshima, which was the first time any U.S. president has visited the site of our bombing. So, I mean, that was a very sensitive site as well. And just being able to participate in both those events and meetings and watch history happen is a pretty exciting thing.
That is an amazing thing. And see, you're taking notes from those two presidents for the day when you become the president of the United States. I still believe, Neil. I'm still believing. You know, I saw it in you when you were in 8th grade, and it hasn't left me. So that just has to be extremely fascinating. Do you have choices in selecting where you're going to go, or do they kind of just say, hey, here's where you're going?
Well, your first two assignments are directed. So they pretty much you're told where you should go, and they kind of try to pick assignments based on your experience and also to give you experience. And after that, you do have some ability to basically you apply. It's you send in resumes to your colleagues, and then your colleagues help pick, you know, who's going to fill the different slots. And so it's you do have a little bit more control over everything. And I mean, the best thing I love about this job, though, is I have career attention deficit disorder, where I get really bored if I'm doing the same thing for too long. And the thing I love about this is no matter what, every 3 years or 4 years, I'm doing something, or even 1 year back that I'm doing something different with a new challenge and a new opportunity and in a new environment with new people. And that's what keeps things. And I'm doing something that I love. I'm serving the American people, and I'm representing America abroad. And so, I mean, that's where I don't know how the State Department ever let me in, but I never plan to leave.
I love that. And, you know, I just really think it does go back to your 8th grade commissioner positions that you held when you were in ASB.
Community service or whatever random hat you gave me.
I love it. So the Thrive Tribe is really about strengthening our well-being. And so the framework, kind of that's my passion. And so the framework that I use is Martin Seligman's framework, and it's PERMA, so positive emotions, engagement with life and then with work, relationships, meaning, and sense of accomplishment or achievement. What do you do to boost your well-being? What are your kind of go-to? It sounds like your job can get probably pretty stressful. So what are your go-to well-being strategies?
Well, and yeah, like you said, it can get pretty stressful and pretty, high pressure. And also too, I mean, the moving is fun, but also like there's a rank of stressors of people's lives. And I think moving is number 3 as a stressor in people's life. And so it's important. I recognize I need to take care of myself. I need to help my family take care of themselves and empower them to do that as well. Because I mean, we got kids involved and they're changing, and so it's really got to think about a lot of things. But I mean, for me, first you got to, like, just like on the airplane, with the oxygen mask drops down, you got to get the mask on yourself first, and then you take care of the person. You got to take care of yourself. And some of the things that I do is take time in the mornings. I wake up a little bit earlier, make myself a nice cup of coffee, quiet time, a little bit of reading, and that's really, really helpful. One of my hobbies, it sounds really boring, but I'm a boring person, and it's to walk. I just love to go for long walks. It's seeing people or new environments, and that is helpful. Exercise, and that's a part of that. And then with my wife, we love to binge watch TV. Very, very healthy, and it's a lot of fun. We like to laugh a lot. And with the kids, it's basically structured activities or finding opportunities to do something that we all love. And so with them right now, it's a lot of Cub Scouts, which is a fun experience. And of course, church is a very important part of my life, and also participate in a weekly Bible study. And so all these things, I mean, it helps, re-energize and focus so that I can then be able to do other things that are important.
Well, the things that you mentioned are so important. On Thursday, this past week in the Thrive Tribe, we do Thankful Thursdays. And so there's usually a different theme. One week was about appreciating employees. But this last week was in particular appreciating nature. And I like to call them awe walks. And that is taking a walk to be in wonder and awe of the world around me, whether that's a blade of grass, a cool architecture of a building, the breeze, the colors of the trees, and that's exactly kind of what you described. And in the articles I put in there, it distinctly links being in nature with well-being. So it's important. It's not boring at all.
That is.
Let me ask you this. So I have some random questions for you. This is my favorite part. And so these are from a little activity deck called Table Topics on Happiness. And it gives you a little fact of something that boosts happiness and then ask you a question. So the first fact says, if you write down a few good things about your day, it can have a dramatic impact on your feeling of well-being. The question is, what were 3 of your favorite moments today?
One favorite moment was going to Costco today and getting shrimp cocktail in the big, huge bucket of it, you can buy there, and eating the whole thing. And that felt really good. And I loved it. Maybe that's not, that's on the healthy side of things, but that was a lot. That was a highlight. 2 was, so I'm in training right now, learning more about history and culture and politics of Iraq. And it was, there was a fantastic presentation by a scholar who came from Rutgers University and showed a video of this 12-year-old Iraqi girl giving a speech about the importance of education. And it was, the whole room was really moved. And it was just inspiring of a 12-year-old, just so articulate. And it's something I won't forget anytime soon. And finally, for me, was just a really good workout in the morning, followed by a cup of coffee.
Cup of coffee is always my favorite part of the day. All right. Spending time imagining an optimistic future for yourself can boost your levels of happiness today. What's your favorite dream about your future?
for me, I'm thinking about like with me and Momo, and we're in retirement, and we're with, we're watching our three boys and what they've become, and they're living happy lives, and and we're just enjoying watching them and living vicariously through them, but also we're living our own life of really just being able to spend time together. And we really envision traveling the world and continuing to do that. That's one of our passions, is travel, and so just continue to do that for the rest of our lives.
I love it. I love it. Okay, last one of these. The card says help someone, because we know that helping someone boosts your well-being. The question is, what's a great memory you have of a stranger giving you assistance?
Well, actually, it's several strangers, and it happened in 2010 in Turkey. And my wife and I were we had only one kid at the time. He was much younger. We were traveling through central Turkey, and we're waiting for a bus to get back to our hotel. It's a city bus, and we're on this busy street. There's a lot of little shops on the street, and the bus isn't coming. So I go to a shopkeeper and I say, sir, and do you speak English? And then he does, and I said, we're trying to get this bus to this hotel. Is this the right bus stop? Are we right? And he's like, he looks, yes, you're in the right place. And then about 3 minutes later, he walks over and he brings a stool from his shop so my wife can sit down holding our baby. So thoughtful. And then 3 minutes after that, another shopkeeper next door sees that we're kind of still waiting around, and he brings over tea. So my wife's sitting, sipping tea at the bus stop. And then about 10 minutes pass, and then I see the shopkeepers are all talking to each other. And then a guy closes his shop and pulls his car out. He's like, okay, I don't think the bus is coming. We'll take you over. And we're just in shock. And he's like, no, it's really seriously, we'll just take you over. And he just drives us over to the hotel. And then I bring in money out, to help with gas and he refuses anything. And for me, it was, me and my wife, we both can't forget this. And that's one story we have of many, many stories of just people and just humanity and how beautiful people are. And it's something that we need to remind me. I need to remind myself to make sure, am I that kind of person as well? And it's really inspiring.
That's a beautiful story. That made me teary. And it's like, I think because we're so connected to news that we hear so many negative stories, and it's so beautiful to hear stories of people being good, right? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let me ask you another question that I ask everyone, and I always give the disclaimer, don't overthink. But if you could teach the world just one thing, and granted, they need to know a lot, but what one thing would you want them to learn from Neil Gibson?
I think it just comes down to, I don't know if you learned it from me, but I think the thing that we all can remember is just love, of loving one another. And that's what it comes down to. If we treat each other with respect, if we just love each other, we help each other out. This world, it is a beautiful place, but I think it could be even more of a beautiful place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, now comes the scary part where I let you ask me one question. So what is one question that you have for me, Neil Gibson?
Well, we have not seen each other in over 15 years. So my question for you is, since we've seen each other past 15 years, what is the greatest challenge that you've overcome?
Oh, holy smokes. That's a big question. Well, I'll say one of the biggest, I've had so many, that I could get out a list for you. The Lord likes to give me a lot of challenges so that I can have stories for my presentations. That's how it works, I think. But I would say 2009 was a rough year for me. I was an assistant principal at the time, and I went to work one day. I was not feeling well. I'm a little bit of a workaholic. And I went to work because a board member was going to be there, and I thought they'd take it personally if I wasn't there. And so I didn't feel well all day. People were telling me to go to the hospital because I looked terrible. I did not listen. And then went home, stopped at the urgent care. They told me they didn't know what was wrong with me. Went home. The next morning at 4 in the morning, I drove myself to the hospital. And a few minutes later, my appendix burst in the hospital. And it was probably I've had a lot of different pains in my life, but I think that was probably one of the most excruciating pains. And then while they were, getting me into surgery and doing ultrasounds and CAT scans and whatever to check that out, they discovered something else. So the next morning I wake up in the hospital and they said, oh, by the way, you have a large tumor on your kidney. It's probably cancer. And so we're going to have to take your kidney out. I was like, what? And so they had to wait until all the bacteria from my appendix had gone away. And so in that year, January, I had my appendix out. February, I had my kidney out. They were able to get all of the cancer. It was cancerous, but they got it all in the surgery. And I'm cancer-free. Yay. And then in March, I had a hysterectomy. So literally, I was out of work for 3 months, which, I mean, I barely even called in sick. I had like oodles of sick day, which is good. I guess I needed them for those 3 months. And so that was really rough. Like it was hard for me not to be working. It was hard for me to be so sick and to try and heal and to be feeble. And, but it really gave me a certain strength. I mean, now, looking back when we learned that of just what you are capable of overcoming. And sometimes your body's telling you to slow down. And if you don't listen, it'll just really tell you to slow down. So.
And I think, honestly too, like it was thank goodness for that.
Absolutely.
Because then you were able to catch something early. And
right.
if that never happened. And that's what's amazing.
It really is. And I had no symptoms for the appendix until literally that day before. And even then, I didn't have a fever. I wasn't throwing up, the usual kind of appendicitis symptoms. I only had pain. And I didn't have any symptoms for the kidney. So it truly did save my life.
Well, I think, too, it took the appendix blowing up, rupturing. Because if they caught it the day before, they would have simply removed it. They wouldn't have went any further. But by rupturing, you had the bacteria throughout your body. They had to check throughout that area, and that's where they found it. So it took the kidney. Actually, it was not just the appendicitis. It had to rupture.
Yeah.
That's for me. Like,
it was a rough few months, but it was good learning, and I met extraordinary people. And actually, that's when I started on Facebook because I was at home going, what am I going to do with myself? I'll find people on Facebook. So anyways, that was a big challenge. If you had, another week, I'd give you all kinds of other ones I've overcome, but that was a biggie. So on that note, Neil, thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to put some links to some articles. I'm going to try and recruit some people to find some good Air Rock footage of you to put in the comments. And it's so good to see you. I'm so proud of you. And when you're president, I hope you remember that I get to interview you one more time. Okay?
Of course.
Deal? All right. Well, thank you so much. For the rest of you, I want to interview you too. Everyone has a story, and we gain belonging and connection by hearing each other's stories. So reach out to me, or I will find you, and let's do an interview. Until then, have a great rest of your Saturday. See you later. Bye.